Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Jim Ryan, the COO of CREAM, and headquartered in Millbrae, California, and recently named one of 27 ice cream shops you need to visit before you die. CREAM is a rapidly growing, fast casual restaurant business that specializes in high-quality ice cream sandwiches and other confections. And we're going to talk to Jim about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822. Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Jim Ryan, the COO of CREAM, and headquartered in Millbrae, California, and recently named one of 27 ice cream shops you need to visit before you die. CREAM is a rapidly growing, fast casual restaurant business that specializes in high-quality ice cream sandwiches and other confections. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Great, Marty. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, Jim. Thanks for coming on the show. I have a feeling it's a bit early where you are today, so I really do appreciate you coming on. Where are you calling from this morning?
I'm calling from Millbrae, California, which is minutes away from San Francisco Airport.
Ah, beautiful. How's the weather there this morning?
You know, hopefully these clouds will end the California drought. So expecting a little rain, but we could use it.
Good. Well, that's good news. That's fantastic. This is, we started the show, Jim, 8 years ago because, we found that there's always like some real interesting stories behind a franchise, and CREAM is no exception. Maybe, you could talk about the history of CREAM.
Absolutely. We have a pretty unique history and a family story that has just been an extreme success for the family, the company, and the franchisees together, and the customers for that matter.
Sure, yeah.
So back in the day, Jimmy Shamiya and his wife, Wafa Shamiya, were sort of in the crossfires of a down economy back in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And they were sitting around the table going, what do we do? our consulting business is down. No one's spending any money. What can we do to make a living and survive? So the family, including their son and daughter, Tag and Gus, were like, well, back in the day, Mom, you used to have these incredible lines at our door, at our home door, for the treats that you used to make for the neighborhood.
Right.
And so to step into that a little bit, Wafa used to, after soccer practice, school, baseball practice, used to bake homemade cookies for the neighbors and for the kids.
Wow.
And the kids used to just put everything in these cookies. These warm cookies would have M&Ms, Hershey bars, marshmallows, and the neighborhood would become the R&B kitchen for what's today cream.
That's fantastic.
Sooner or later, they got into scooping ice cream between cookies, and the lines grew longer, the excitement grew, and they said, you know what, maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah.
And so back at this round table in 2008, they said, you know what, let's try to commercialize this, and not necessarily in the sense of let's create a franchise,
right?
But let's create a family business so we can all, try this venture that we love and our neighbors love.
Right.
So back in 2010, they took the chance, they gambled everything away, and they opened a store in Berkeley, California.
Wow.
About 5 blocks away from Berkeley's campus.
Oh, my God, what a great location.
Great location, but what's interesting about the location, it was once a Miss Fields location and another dessert location.
Oh, wow.
And so it had some trials with that location.
Of course. Oh, wow.
And what's amazing is it's such a family business that Jimmy and Wafa would work the day shift, and Tag and Gus would work the night shift.
That's great.
That's one, it's family values. I understand family values, but to see this family work together that way,
right,
it just makes for an incredible story.
It does make for an incredible story, and that's what attracted us to, and that's what we always look for, when we have guests on the show, Jim, is say, what's their story, what makes them unique. The name itself, Cream, it's amazing they were even able to, get the name or that the trademark on that name. I think that's fantastic. It's a pretty strong name, isn't it?
It is a strong name, and it's funny. Around that table, you have sessions on what are we going to do, and
right.
Oh,
what are you
wow,
going to call it?
We're going to do this. What do we call it?
Right.
And so there were so many different things thrown around that Gus, I believe, came up with a name sort of after the Wu-Tang song where cash rules everything around me.
Really?
They went to cookies rule everything around me. And the family's like, oh, we don't like it. It's not great. And all of a sudden a week goes by, and they're like, you know what? I think this is actually a pretty interesting name for a business.
That's fantastic.
And we get so many positive comments about it.
That really is
especially
fantastic.
From that younger generation.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. It's interesting, in doing this show 8 years, it's, we ask that question, who gets credit for the name and how did you come up with the name? There's always interesting stories we find behind that, so it really is fantastic. To get you guys got the accolade of 27 ice cream shops you need to visit before you die. And that's always like a big wow, isn't it? When you get that type of accolade, isn't it?
That's just a confirmation that our proprietary recipes and the way that we serve them hold true. So, Wafa back in the day created cookie recipes and ice cream recipes that we still serve today.
Wow.
And when that press came out, there were immediate emails going back and forth just congratulating, the family and Wafa for her efforts, because that was a global recognition. You had companies from Rome, Italy. So we're extremely pleased to just be on that list.
That's amazing. That's in the world. That's really incredible. It's to tell your customers and to tell prospective franchisees that you got that accolade. When I was telling my wife that this morning, she said, "Oh, we got to try it." That's one of the places that you want to try. Being ice cream fans. What do you like? When you have the opportunity, Jim, of going in a cream frequently. What are some flavors that you've liked or enjoyed?
Well, I like the experience. So the flavors are great. You know, we sell a premium product with high butter fat, so we're on the levels of the super premium companies out there.
Right.
So when you dig into it, the cup of ice cream weighs something. It's not air. It's cream. It's heavy, so it's that richness.
Wow.
And the cookies are out of the oven warm. So we're creating more of an experience.
Yeah.
And the flavors you can customize to, you know, I asked my brother-in-law, who's an electrical engineer, how many combinations can we create of cookies, ice creams, and toppings. And, it was over 100 trillion.
Was it really? Isn't that incredible? Oh, geez, so you could have something different the rest of your life. Every time you go into a cream, you could have something different.
Yes, and as we, enter life on Mars, we can keep having something different. So
it's fantastic. And I like how you use the word experience too, because, as we were, reviewing cream, it seems like that's what you're getting when you go inside, isn't it? It's not like if you were at a franchise show and someone came up to your booth, I don't think anyone would say, okay, well, we're an ice cream franchise. Cream is so much more than that, isn't it?
It really is. And this goes back to where the family was. I'm going to keep mentioning the family because while they started a small business, they were really on to a bigger thing.
Yeah.
So part of the conversation, which holds dear today, is we have 4 values. One is we will always provide a premium product, something that you'll be proud to serve your family.
Right.
There's no trans fats. It's natural product and something that, hey, you can feel good about selling it. 2 is for an ice cream sandwich, it's a $2.99 experience. So a family of 4 can get out of there for under $15.
Wow, that's great.
And when a husband of a father of the family receives change back from giving a $20 to the cashier, they're all struck. Like, no, really, I get change back for this?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often today, does it?
It doesn't happen. Then what's, part of our values is the customer experience. So not only do we, think the customer is top priority, number one, but we really go out of the way to create that experience for the customer. And one of our sayings is, happy in, happier out. Right? They're coming in for an experience. They should feel good. They're coming in for ice cream, but let's make them feel better as they leave. And then the 4th value that we have is the atmosphere. So we hire first-time employees, second-time employees into the job market. They're young. They're millennials.
Yeah.
They want to be there. And so we turn the music up a little loud. We encourage dancing and singing from behind the counter and in front of the counter.
That's great.
And it happens. So this whole cream experience happens every time you walk in, and you leave going, that was fun. I think I'm going to come back.
Exactly.
And they do. They come back all the time.
That's fantastic. It does. It sounds like it's a great experience. How has technology played a role in the business today, Jim? I mean, it's I'm sure a lot different from when it was being served from a home to where it is today. Where technology is probably being utilized a bit more. So, I mean, has technology played a role with cream?
Yeah, it has. We are in a great area of the country. So Millbrae is the northern side of Silicon Valley.
Right.
So with all the tech money and interesting startups, we become the beta test for many new technology startups.
Right.
So our first thing we wanted to do was get a POS system, and we actually went with a company called Revel, where they can integrate third-party apps into the system.
Wow.
It was really critical for us that we can either build our own or bring third parties into our centralized unit. So part of our experience, since it's a quick experience, we don't capture a lot of data, is how do we create an incredible surprise and delight loyalty system? So you could think of it as a coffee punch card, but what else can we do to enhance that surprise and delight mission that we're on? So loyalty was really big for us.
Yeah,
and
especially in that business, is having that loyalty following, which I suspect you guys do, is I think that's so important.
We do, and we don't serve caffeine, so they're not addicted to it, although they come in as if they are. But we do want to reward them for their patronage. It's really important.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Part of the other technology would be the back-end tools that we use for the franchisee group.
Mm-hmm.
So when a franchisee buys in and we really just do multiple unit deals, we want to make sure that they're prepared for what's about to happen to them. So this back-end system will house the training material that we'll use. It provides scheduling materials. It's the reporting that they'll use for either a single unit or multi-unit operations.
Right.
It houses videos. I mean, it's a really complex tool, but easy to use. And as you grow in terms of number of units, it really lets you take it from a high-level manager standpoint and look down on what's the health of the operations.
That's fantastic.
We're also trying to get rid of money, this currency. So we're in bed with PayPal and Apple Pay and other digital wallets because it's just easier. And the trends are moving that way, and we want to be on the forefront of that.
That's great that you guys are in that already, because that really is the forefront, isn't it? Or the change that really just seems to just be starting to take place, and I think that's certainly a benefit to, of course, working with CREAM as well. So I think that's so important. The industry is pretty big too, Jim. I mean, we've had some others in your industry before. I mean, how big is the industry today?
Well, I think we're in two industries, Marty. We are in an ice cream industry, and we are in a cookie industry.
True. Right. Interesting point, yeah.
Right. So you put them together, and it's roughly a $20 billion industry. So how do we tackle that?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point, being in both industries. That makes a lot of sense. So our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs, and they have it in their mind that they want to go into franchising. What types of characteristics does CREAM look for in their franchisees?
We look for passion.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to be passionate about the brand.
Yeah.
Because you cannot fake passion.
No, you can't.
Yeah. In order to create this CREAM experience that we talked about earlier, passion is number one.
Yeah.
When we hire, the work crew, we hire for attitude and we train for skill later.
Right.
We feel as if our operations are relatively easy operations for an owner to understand, but passion is definitely key. We want to make sure that the prospect calls all of our franchisees, so they do the research needed to make a smart decision.
Right.
And I think it was a really smart move back in the day with the UFOC, now the FDD, to have this 14-day cooling period, because it's a long-term investment, and you have to be willing in our industry to work with hourly wage employees.
Sure, absolutely.
And that takes a special type of managerial skill and patience. So
that makes a good point. I mean, again, you mentioned working with millennials, or a younger audience, and I guess that does take a little more patience, doesn't it? Particularly if you're a little older, to be able to work with those groups. Yeah,
it really is. And as a father of two, my children are on their phone texting and taking Vine videos and and these new hires, they bring that to work, and you really have to be able to manage and lead this group. And I think that's an interesting point about being a franchisee, is you have to look at it from the manager and leadership side of it, and sort of take off the owner's hat.
Yeah.
Right? The owner pays a bill. The owner feels the stress at night. But your work crew, they don't really care about that. They want to make sure that they're being led down a path that's fun, at least in our business, really fun, where they can continue to create this experience that we're trying to.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Once you decide that you like them and they like you, and so they want to go forward, what is the training like, Jim, for new franchisees? Then do they come out to California? Is that how it works, where the headquarters is based?
They do. That's later on in the training.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We start at day one, so they execute their development deal with us, and we really start to load their inbox with material. From reading material, what books should they read?
Right.
If they don't have the managerial skills, what books should they read? Memorizing our menu and products, that has to come in early, because the worst customer experience is when a customer asks, hey, what do you have? And you turn around and you point to the menu and you read off the menu.
Right, exactly. And they could read already, the customers, so
That's right.
That's something.
Yeah, but we start at real estate. So how do we train them on drafting the right letter of intent so they get into the lease negotiations with the upper hand on the landlord, if you will. Not necessarily the upper hand, but with some education behind that. We ask them to create a marketing plan prior to construction, so that when they're in construction, we can evaluate their marketing plan, and then critique it, and then create one that works.
Right.
But they're being educated along the way, because once they open, we become that support mechanism, and they're the store owners. So we really want to make sure that they're on the right foot there. And then to answer your question about training, we have a 10-day training course in Northern California, ranging from office training, marketing training, focusing on values, on the brand, on social media. Social media plays a huge part in our business. And then the operation side. So when they're off and completing their training, they will actually be running our stores that we own and operate. So we put our faith that our training works and our stores in their hands.
That's great. What do you guys look for in a location, Jim? As far as like space goes, and do you like to be like in a main strip, or how's that work?
It's a really interesting question. I've led some other brands before where we were looking for the Main Street at Main Street in the perfect trade area. Right. You need to take the corner.
Sure.
With this business, Cream, we're looking for the right trade area, but with our price value proposition of $2.99, we really play in all demographics.
True.
But when we target real estate, we look for middle income. So the lower demographics can come up, the higher demographics can come down, and we are accessible to all. If you start playing in the Beverly Hills of the world exclusively, you lose that family that might be on the lower income bracket. They just won't come up there, and they're a huge part of this business.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
What is for your listeners? How do you describe a typical day? When you're a franchisee to Cream, how does the day start? How does it end? And kind of like everything else in between. And I guess it of course depends if you're like a single unit or multi-unit. But how does that work?
Great question. So we bring on owner-operators. Right. So we're not really interested in just the checkbook for franchise opportunities. So we train on operations, and we expect the stores, the day in the life of a Cream franchisees, to sort of follow our training, which is we open at 11 a.m. or noon, so you get to sleep in, which unlike a lot of restaurants, that's a nice thing to have.
That is a nice thing to have,
but we play late, so depending on your location, we may be open until 2 a.m.
Okay.
And, in a metropolitan area where there's a bar crowd around, they're looking for carbs after the bars to get home. So we're a nice, alternative to the slice of pizza, if you will.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
But it's a long day. We operate around 70 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to be in the forefront of the location so they are making that experience happen. And they are shoulder to shoulder, especially for their first location, to the employees. Yeah. Right? They're singing, they're leading this culture, and they're leading the values that we're trying to instigate within the system. And, of course, with franchising, it's difficult to have values that translate to everyone. But, so we have simple values which are create the CREAM experience and those 4 points that we brought up earlier. But through technology, we've made ordering easy. We've made operations easy. It's how do you deliver that experience every time.
Absolutely, yeah, that is so important. You've mentioned, you've been involved with other franchises, Jim. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? We find, in doing the show over the last 8 years, a lot of them they don't even know where to begin because there's just so much out there. What advice would you give to them in their quest to buy a franchise?
The first one is go into a store and experience it multiple times. That's as a customer, As a customer, are you being treated like you want to be treated? Because if the company can't get it right, then they might have issues from the training side, because it should be right every time in the retail environment. If it's not, the system will have problems. Right. Do your research. Call the franchisees. Use that FDD to your advantage. Mm-hmm. All the information is in there. Make those calls. What's nice about managers and franchisees is they love to talk. They're proud of their business when things are going well, and they use their voice when things are not. So make sure that you actually do all your research. Yeah. Make sure that you have your expectations set. So for us, we don't look for passive investors, and we don't look for people that are doing this for a hobby. If an employee doesn't show up, you're being called to your investment, to run your investment. Right, exactly. And so you really need to understand that you're the top of the pinnacle of your location or your development area, and you have to treat it as such that when things go wrong, you're the one that will be picking up the pieces if it goes down that path. Right. So just make sure that they understand that. Yeah, that's a good point. What's interesting about the restaurant business is it seems extremely sexy from the outside. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, but when you get into it, it can be extremely rewarding and sexy, but it takes a lot of hard work. Right, and I think people just have to be prepped for that. Yeah, it is a good point. It's amazing how many people will walk into a franchise gym from our experience and they'll say, "Wow, I wish I owned one of these," but they're not taking a lot of the other things into consideration, the behind the scenes, and all that other stuff, So it really is it's quite interesting, and I think it's great advice. So as the chief operating officer, I can ask you this question. What are CREAM's plans for the future then? If you were to look like maybe 3 years down the road, where do you see the business? Well, the phone keeps ringing, so I think we're on to world domination. That's good. That's a good sign. But we have a lot of work to do in setting the foundation. Yeah. So, unfortunately, back in the early days of franchising, we didn't get back to a lot of candidates because we weren't ready. Right. And I think that was one of the smartest moves that we could have made. Yeah. If we get too greedy, I think we'll have troubles. So smart growth is our plan, and building the foundational infrastructure as we grow has to be the plan, and it is part of our 5-year plan. So we've done a few deals that are going to take us through 100 stores in the next 3 years.
Wow, that's something.
Yep. You know,
how do the owners feel about that, Jim? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's something that started in a house. You know what I mean? And where the business is today, it's really quite remarkable if you think about it. You know, I mean, how do they feel about that? I mean, it must be an amazing feeling.
Oh, they smiles from cheek to cheek. You know, and also everyone's going a little more gray. Because of the success.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but, you know, we couldn't be happier because it's a good business. You know, our franchisees are successful. You know, they're opening locations. They might start with one, and they're trying to take down territories because they're having fun and they're making money. And that's part of it. You know, we don't want to close stores. We want to make sure that this is fruitful for all. And what's nice about the Schmier family is they're involved. You know, they're day to day. So we're still making seasonal flavors. We still have we have franchisees to support, and we're opening our own company stores because we really love our P&L.
Right.
So they're thrilled.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Jim, for our listeners to get more information on becoming a franchisee? Any websites you'd like them to go to?
Oh, sure. Thank you. The website is creamnation.com.
Creamnation.com, which is a great domain name, by the way. It's you guys got a great business name and great domain, which is so important. So I think that's fantastic. And that's
we
great.
are. Thanks, Marty. We are expanding nationally, so we'd love to hear from your listeners, and be patient. We will get back to you when we can.
That's fantastic, and I'd really like to invite you back next year as you continue to grow, Jim. I think this is a great opportunity, so I look forward to speaking with you again.
Marty, thank you so much for your time, and please stop in and visit us.
You got it. It's my pleasure, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment, and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews now over 8 years and over 400 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today you're going to get to hear from Chris Simic, who is the founder of FranchiseTeacher.com, and Chris has over 30 years of business and franchise experience as an independent business owner, a franchisee, and a franchisor. And Chris said something very profound that we haven't heard on our show in over 8 years. He mentioned that you have to almost work harder to fail at franchising than to succeed in franchising, and he explains why.
Most people, about 90% I think I've seen, buy a business other than they first looked at.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's a big number too, isn't it, Chris? You know, that, you know, most people, they go in with these certain expectations and they come out with something different, you know, and I find that fascinating.
I absolutely, it never ceases to astound me, but I think that speaks to the value of franchising as a business model and a business method, because people don't have to be in something just because they know it. And quite candidly, sometimes getting involved in a business that you would rather do, that you were not involved in, allows you the luxury of taking a new career path and to develop something you never would have had the opportunity to had it not been, you know, systematized and prioritized for you. You know, in franchising, it's said that you have to really almost work harder to fail than to succeed, because if you have a good franchise system, if you follow directions, you have to almost purposely not follow them to not do well.
That's true. That's fantastic. We have this great quote in franchising. I think we're going to put that one in there, Chris. I think that's very original, and it's very true. What advice would you give to our listeners? You know, we find that most of them, they're just beginning their search to buy a franchise, Chris, and we find that, you know, most of them just simply, they don't even know where to begin, like you were saying. What advice would you give to them?
I do, when I speak to people looking at franchise, I give them three different pieces of advice. One, make sure you're looking for a business for the right reason. Now, a lot of people have things happen in their life. They lose a job or something happens, and they react and maybe say, well, okay, maybe I'll go buy a business. That may not be the reason to do it versus having the luxurious selectivity that here's my opportunity that was created by some adversity. Second thing is that they have to make sure that they are able to be franchisees, that not everybody is designed to be able to follow the systems, procedures, and the processes it takes to be a successful franchise owner. And then I tell them quite candidly is pick a couple of the industries and the price ranges that may have interest to you, and then kind of pin down from there, either using the resources of a consultant or a broker or a team member, or on their own. Either way, but I think that if they take their time, follow the steps, and do it for the right reasons, they'll be on a much smoother pathway to success in owning their own business.
That's well said. What's in the future then for Franchise Teacher, Chris? I mean, where do you see the company 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well, Marty, we've been extremely fortunate and blessed that the business has been around, you know, through Century Franchise Group for many years, and our new FranchiseTeacher.com has taken off. We're representing right now, 7 plus brands. I think in 5 years our focus will really be even more fine-tuned as the consumer or the prospective business owner is looking for more and more specific information. Breaking down to teach, coach, consult, and advise, I think will be a way for us to assist people in what they need. You know, people, again, don't know what they don't know, but I think the information overload sometimes discourages people too early. They say, this is too much for me to process. If we can break it down into bite-sized pieces, I think more and more people, especially the younger generation, who are looking for the advice and the information they want when they want it, I think is, going to do nothing more than continue. Then our next business venture, which launches at the end of this year, is looking to capture all the different franchise brands around the world and put them into one place. So we're looking forward to a future. And franchising is going nowhere but growing. As you said for a long time too, the number of franchise opportunities, and the world's getting to be a smaller place. I think you're going to find a lot of opportunities coming in and going out of different marketplaces and different countries accessible to more people.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Chris, for our listeners to get more information on franchiseteacher.com? Obviously, franchiseteacher.com, but any numbers you'd like them to call or email addresses?
Well, actually, we appreciate www.franchiseteacher.com. And my business partner, Dave, and I offer them the free 1-hour consultation. Fill out the form and take advantage of it.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Chris, for finally coming on the show. I've been following your career for a long time now, and I have just been very impressed with everything that you've done, So when I saw this, I mentioned to you, we don't typically call people to come on the show, but I had to have you specifically on the show. So it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today.
Marty, ditto, and again, congratulations on your PhD doctorate. I have read your thesis, and I would recommend it reading if people can get through
that's fantastic.
The information.
I really appreciate that you read it, too, because that's an honor coming from you, so that's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again, Chris, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.